couple weeks ago, I was going through this article, and it was shortly after, I think the article says December 7th, 2022. Kind of reminded me of the King Road murders, but at the same time, it didn't. So I thought it would be a good comparison to explain how dysfunctional a killer like this can be. Okay, I'll start reading it. Indiana woman who killed 2 people during home invasion and stabbing, admittedly inspired by serial killers, takes plea deal. Her picture's right up there. I mean, does she look like somebody who's going to come into your house and kill you? An Indiana murderess who was admittedly inspired by serial killers as she embarked upon an uncanny and fatal stabbing spree in May 2020, reached a plea deal with Indianapolis prosecutors on Tuesday. Kristen Wolf, 30 years old, pleaded guilty to exactly what she was charged with: 2 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and 1 count of attempted battery by means of a deadly weapon, according to the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. In exchange for the plea, the state has apparently agreed to take the death penalty off of the table. The defendant accepted a sentence of 100 years in prison and will be sentenced in January 2023. Court documents obtained by Indianapolis-based NBC affiliate WTHR and Fox affiliate WXIN paint a macabre and hectic scene at the far west side apartment where the carnage unfolded. On the night of May 11th, 2020, the victims were attacked by a woman none of them had ever met. The knife attack was brutal and almost immediately resulted in the death of 24-year-old resident Victoria Cook, who was ambushed as she answered a knock at her front door. Another woman was stabbed in the neck but survived the onslaught from the roughly 300-pound figure dressed in all black. So, the first victim was taken by surprise, like somebody who is sleeping. The second victim, who survived, was also stabbed in the neck. I have a feeling that this is how the victims in the house died, at least the ones that were attacked while they were still sleeping. You can see that taking someone by surprise and having a large knife can result in their death quickly and make it so that they can't scream, they can't do anything or say anything. They're completely incapacitated. As the attack progressed, 28-year-old Dylan DeCover tried to intervene by grabbing Wolf from behind, but the defendant countered, first by stabbing him over her shoulder and then by stabbing him through the leg, hitting a major artery. DeCover bled out and later succumbed to his wounds at nearby Eskenazi Hospital. So, by now, Wolf had killed one woman by attacking her neck, completely surprising her, and that woman is pretty much dead on the scene. Then it sounds like she goes to attack another woman who ends up surviving, because it sounds like Dylan intervened in her attack on that woman and lost his life because of that. So this shows that if you know where to stab somebody, you can kill a person very quickly, especially if they're taken by surprise. And this next part is a good example of what happens when you're not taken by surprise, and when the killer is actually taken by surprise. Another friend of the slain was upstairs when the violence began. He told police he rushed downstairs when he heard commotion and saw a woman with strawberry blonde hair stabbing people. He then went back upstairs to procure a weapon from the woman who lived there. But by the time he got back to confront Wolf, she had already fled. So this fourth person, who most likely would have been a victim had he been sleeping or downstairs as well, when he comes downstairs, he sees what's going on, he turns right around and he grabs a weapon. He doesn't grab his cell phone to call. He tries to fight back, which is what a lot of people would probably do. Obviously, there's pretty much two options. You either get a weapon and protect yourself, or you barricade yourself in and call for help. The murderer probably seen this person come down and seen them run up, and most likely was like, okay, well, the police are going to be coming here soon, so I gotta go. The man tried to stop his friend's bleeding as he dialed out for help. The surviving victim described the attacker as having worn some sort of a work uniform, but investigators on the scene were aided by an even better and ultimately key piece of evidence, the killer's hat. During the incident, a cap fell off, bearing a telltale patch, the insignia of the Indiana Department of Corrections. Inside was a written name, Wolf. Investigators quickly discovered that there was a woman named Kristen Wolf who worked for the IDC. Her information on file matched the description of the assailant given to police by the witnesses. The killer was arrested at her job, the Madison Correctional Facility, which has 600 beds for women detained under minimum security. During her initial police interview, she denied being in Indianapolis on the night in question. Said she wasn't working either and had been with a friend. Then she asked for an attorney. So this is an absolutely dysfunctional murder scene. This apartment, who knows if she scoped it out or she just picked it. Who knows if she knew how many people were living there, what they were doing. What she did know is that she wanted to kill random people. She came to this apartment. Only she knows why, unless she explains why she picked that apartment. She knocks on the door to gain entry. She stabs one victim. Other people realize what's going on at that time. Then she goes for another victim, which is when a third victim attacks her. But you can see the reaction of the victim in this article, where you can see how somebody is taken by surprise. There's 3 other people in the same room. One of them is injured, and the other one tries to fight back and is ultimately killed. So it's not difficult to think that the King Road murders was done by one person. And I would assume that the people who had defensive wounds on them, or even possibly different entry locations on their body, would be the ones that were attacked second. And this is a good example. This Wolf woman, she attacked 2 people at the throat, and then when she didn't have the ability to attack this other person at their throat, she stabbed their shoulder, and then she went for the major artery in the leg. So his entry wounds are different because he fought her. So it's not indicative of being targeted. None of these people were really targeted. I mean, in a sense they were, because this person chose that apartment room to kill people that she's never even met before. And a lot of the times with serial killers, it's really hard catching a serial killer, because if she didn't leave any DNA or anything, and all they had, and she didn't have any wounds on her or cuts, the article doesn't describe that she has any cuts or DNA or anything. She could have been wearing gloves. She was wearing a hat. It's probably a ski mask. I don't know, but this person, this Wolf person, was very disorganized. Very disorganized. The person who did the Roadhouse, or did the King Road murders, I believe is not disorganized. I believe that they were highly organized, because they picked a certain time to go in. They picked a route to the house and an entryway into the house where they weren't seen on camera. So they hadn't been caught. They may know the house, they may know the victims. They may have chosen this house because they knew that they kept the back door unlocked. I don't know. But they chose a time when these people were sleeping. They could have been outside of the house, looking at the windows, waiting for lights to turn off. Who knows? There is like a forested area kind of back there. But it's been a month now, and this person hasn't been captured. There is no indication of a person of interest. I know that there's a gas station that has an image of this Elantra driving by fast. But this wasn't a location where the police immediately sought out the CCTV. This was a location where somebody was on their night shift at a gas station, and they were looking through the CCTV cameras, and they seen a suspicious car driving on the night of the murders at, I think it was 3:40 something, 3:45, somewhere around there. And this car was driving fast. So they thought it was suspicious, so they called up the police and they notified them about the car, which is amazing, because it might end up to be something, it might end up to be nothing, but Those are the kind of tips that are better than people just making crap up. Like this guy who said that he had this video of the neighbor, the scream that the neighbor heard. It's just, that stuff's not helpful. Anyway, let's go on with the article. During a search of Wolf's home, investigators found multiple combat-style knives, several additional pieces of clothing that had the same IDC patch as the hat left at the crime scene, and a series of documents in which she expressed a curiosity and desire to kill. Those nightstand writings wondered about the feeling of inflicting death and are where the defendant said she took inspiration from serial killers. She wrote that she considered killing her boyfriend or his wife, but that she settled on, rather, killing someone she didn't know. She also made her peace with the idea that she might die during the attack, but clarifying that she didn't really want to die. The papers included a holographic or handwritten will, were dated May 11th, 2020, the same day as the murders. There is no place for this kind of violence and senseless attack in our society, Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears said. Pursuant to this agreement, Wolf will spend the rest of her life in prison. We continue to think of the families and all of those affected by the tragedy during this difficult time. Here's a multiple killing of a first-time offender, and I can probably say that because she worked at a correction facility, so I'm pretty sure they do a background check. Someone you look at and you would not expect them to do something like this, but obviously they did. They left their hat there at the crime scene. A survivor described what they looked like. And then, when their home was searched, the police officers found a bizarre reason for her doing what she did. It really doesn't make any sense. Like, I have a feeling that she probably didn't want to kill somebody she knew just because she didn't want to get caught. She didn't want to go to jail, and she might have even, if she didn't go to jail, she might have even did this again. But she probably considered killing somebody she knew because it's easier to lure somebody that you know somewhere, but it's also easier to get caught because you probably have cell phone communication, your cell phones are together, you're seen together. There's a way to connect you to the victim, which is why it's a lot easier to find and prosecute people who kill people that they know. But when you're killing somebody that you don't know, it's a lot harder because a lot of the times police officers, they'll go through victimology, which is basically who's the victim, who has a reason to kill them, who do we need to talk to, who's the last person to see them, what kind of resources do we have that could probably find this perpetrator, like cameras, text messages, etc. But when you have somebody who randomly knocks on a door of an apartment, and then just starts stabbing people for no reason. It's much more rare. And when somebody does this and they plan it, but they're more organized than spontaneous, and they're more able to, Wolf, this Kristen Wolf, she did plan this in a way. You can tell she contemplated her own death. She brought the weapon with her. She took the weapon with when she left. But when she went in to do the actual crime, my guess is she probably didn't know who was all there. She attacked right away, and in her haste, she completely didn't think about the hat that she wore that had her name in it. Even if there wasn't a name in that hat, touch DNA would have probably been able to figure out who she is. And that's another thing. Genealogy testing isn't as easy as it sounds. Like, there are a couple things that come after the fact of the initial investigation. So if an investigation goes cold and there's no new leads, there's no suspects, there's no people, or there's people of interest but no concrete evidence, that's when rewards for information come out. And that's when genealogy testing is probably sent through. That's not a right away thing because it's more difficult than you could think. A lot of the times when DNA gets sent through, the first cycle of DNA testing is comparing known DNA to unknown DNA. So if you have a pool of blood underneath a victim, for example, let's say, if there's a pool of blood underneath a victim, you are going to initially assume that is that person's DNA. If you have splatters or blood smears that seem out of the ordinary, like let's say somebody touched a light switch and there was a blood smear on it, or somebody opened a door handle and there was blood on the door handle. Those are good places to check for unknown DNA. It's not, or even the murder weapon is a good place to check for unknown DNA. But it's not like TV shows where this person probably didn't even leave any DNA. This person could have, the best possible ways I could see this guy leaving evidence is if he was scratched in an attack, and there were DNA from fingernails. If he maybe lost something at the actual crime scene that may have had his DNA on it. I don't think that he would have intentionally left anything. I believe this person probably wore gloves. Plastic. Maybe. This person was very organized compared to the last case. And I have no idea what the crime scene looks like, obviously. All I know is that this is a high priority case. It's been a month. You might be able to chalk that up to, well, the police officers really dropped the ball on this one. But I really don't think that's fair, because you have FBI agents I seen a video talking about 5 people who look like undercover investigators walking through the house, slowly walking through every room. I believe those people are crime scene investigators. They probably have all the photographs and wanted to see the actual location. But these people that are working on this are highly trained. When they originally came out and said that, oh, this was a targeted incident, a lot of people kind of fussed over that. But in the first couple days of a murder, do you really want to come out and say, oh, we might have a serial killer on our hands? This might have been just a random attack? You're not gonna want to say that. You're gonna want to tell people, okay, it's okay, calm down, and then later on it's gonna be evident that maybe this guy, I don't know, I want this guy to get caught before it happens again. I don't want more victims to come out of this. I don't want just random people coming out with information just being treated like they're criminals. Or even some guy with a mental illness who is a criminal, who has done terrible things, to get put in a worse situation than he already is. I don't want people attacking random people. And I don't want this killer to do it again. I think the saddest part about cases like this is something horrific happens to someone, and then you get like this sort of calm feeling again, months, years later. It starts getting easier to walk around and starts getting easier to live life again and forget about a tragedy that consumed your mind for months, years. For the victims' families and friends, that's going to consume their minds for a lifetime. That this is a college town. Young people will come in, and I think eventually this person will do it again. I don't think this is a random, spontaneous, disorganized attack.